Hello, Sharpies, and welcome to Steel Sharp and Steel. Shout out to Mark Stepney for his first appearance as the #1 comment. We appreciate you, Mark. Obviously, Anthony Turner in the chat as always, and our good friend and special host James Herndon gives us a big old hey. Here we are. We are back. I'm Tom Cunningham.
Going clockwise.
Oh, I'm Jermaine Taylor.
I'm Joy Stevens. We all out of position.
We are out of position.
Sleeping on this side.
Joy. Okay. So let me. Okay, there we go. All right. So
there's my girl.
And Joy is out of town again. Joy is just trying to get her Delta miles before Delta changes its accrual.
In the land of Lincoln, I understand. Or
I really am. I am in Louisville, Kentucky right now.
Okay, wait. You're putting Louisville. That's it. Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
Like Luhvavull.
Louisville.
Yes.
I did a show there about maybe 10 years ago, Ragtime.
Oh, were you Cole House Walker?
Well, I was understudying Cole House, but I was Booker T. Yes.
Make them hear you.
Yeah, that was my audition song.
Oh, that's a great
I wasn't strong enough to be the lead of Cole House. They wanted a more towering presence. Perhaps if I was your height, I would have gotten it. But I was Booker T, and I was there for like maybe a summer.
Okay,
and it was the most boring time of my entire life.
Well, that's a great show. Louisville does not have a lot to offer. I say that. But that's a fantastic show. Congratulations. I saw it in here in Los Angeles with of course the traveling company. But it was very interesting because the actor who was playing Cole House was the opposite complexion of Howard Rollins in the movie.
Oh my God.
It was the guy who ended up playing the adoptive father of Leah Michelle's character in Glee. So he's actually, he's certainly not Cole House. I mean, color-wise, but in theater,
it just makes sense if he's a darker complexion.
It does. It absolutely makes sense. Harold Rollins was very good casting. I really enjoyed the movie, and I really enjoyed the musical.
Right.
But that he could sing well, but it was kind of bizarre casting.
But Brian Stokes did it on Broadway, and he's not necessarily dark skinned. Yeah,
no, it was Brian. It was Brian Stokes in LA as well. That's why what
was that?
You went dark.
I guess you were trying to. You're giving us Cole House Walker vibes right now. 100% Cole House.
I guess so.
In the middle of the night.
Yeah, I know. That's right.
I know. Maybe we should migrate from that topic.
Yeah, well, we want to get you back in. I'm going to take you out of the feed and try to goose you back in. No, you're still. Did you turn off your camera accidentally?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm in there. I can see you guys fine.
You are a black rectangle as far as I'm seeing right now. Are you seeing a black rectangle, Joy?
I see a black rectangle.
I'm seeing
everyone. Drop out and rejoin us, Jermaine.
Yes.
While we set up the rest of the show.
Okay.
I mean, the show theme is we black y'all, we blackity black.
But that's taking it a bit far, Jermaine.
Okay.
You're giving us all the blackness.
Right.
You're giving us the sounds of blackness. You're giving us all of it. Sharpies, you can weigh in and let us know if you could actually still see Jermaine or if you could not. But we're still running a little bit at the top of the show to give some of our Sharpies a little time to join us. We apologize for being a little bit late. We are still coordinating our various... there he is. He's back now.
I saw everything and I heard everything.
No, it's fine. You're back now. So that's good. I was noticing, since we have some Sharpies in the chat, and Mark had posted on social media, Mark Stepney had posted on social media about how now that he is a new car owner, he is developing a little weight gain. So I'm just here to tell you that if you want to lose some weight, flesh-eating bacteria, you could die, but you'll sure look great. Flesh-eating bacteria, it is a way to lose weight. I mean, you might lose a whole limb. That's not the best way to do it, but I will tell you, sitting up in a hospital for 2 weeks will definitely help you drop the poundage.
When they say that you can drop 5 pounds quick, they didn't mean your foot.
No,
they
really did it.
Your overall body weight.
Yeah,
Is
it
it
was
better than
Oh, the
Ozempic?
flu. You know what? I just want to say real quick in my best aggravated menopausal woman voice, fuck you dudes that can like drink 2 glasses of water and drop 10 pounds. That shit aggravates the ever loving shit
Okay,
out of me.
I will
be
tell
over
you right
here
now.
doing 45 minutes on the bike and weights and eating like 600 calories a day and all the goddamn spinach and kale and everything, and I gain 2 pounds. Y'all over here like and drop 5. That is some
No, okay. So
bullshit.
I will tell you.
Ozempic.
No, I'm on Trulicity. Okay. And Trulicity is different. Semaglutide is like the kind of generic Ozempic-y, Vilova, Gluva, whatever. So there are some options out there. This is sickness. This is not me working out. This is me just not being able to believe how much weight dropped off when I was in a supine position in a hospital bed for 2 weeks. It was on a very calorie restricted diet. So I am looking at some videos on Instagram to get my little workout routine up. But you know, it did help me lose. So and
Don't
I will
patronize me. Don't patronize me, Anthony. I try to hear that shit. Now I will say that my massage therapist who works in the building where my gym is, he saw me working out and he walked up on me. He goes, "Your ass is getting fat." And I really want to be like, "Fuck!" Like I was ready to fight. And he's like, "No. I can tell that your glutes." And he went through like the whole like medical terminology. I was like, he's gonna walk up on me and tell my ass getting fat, son. Should fight you in your face.
Yeah, is he young? Because the young kids are saying thickness. Like, oh, you looking thick, and I'm like,
no, he's our age.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he was not properly aspirating the pH
Yeah.
in the fat.
He gives little brother energy. He just likes to pick with me. So
is he trying to holler?
No.
Okay.
No, it's a family thing.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a family.
That's why I was gonna punch him in the throat. That's what you do with your little brother. You punch him dead in the throat.
Dead in the throat.
And dare him to say it ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are here. It's 5:45. We're going to get started with the show. Our Black episode. We've got 3 big stories that are about Blackness in the United States of America. We are headed right down to the South with Alabama, sir. And I don't know if you all saw this story. Joy was the one, I think, or no, was it Joy or Jermaine? Who brought it to our attention?
I think I did.
It was Jermaine.
Okay, Jermaine, we're going to let you take the lead on this. Tell us about your Alabama story.
Well, there was a band director. I want to say it happened last Friday at a school in Birmingham, high school in Birmingham, Alabama. And from what I was reading, it's customary that this particular school, they always play a little bit after the fourth quarter game, after the game is over, just, you know, as a tradition, as the fans are leaving, give the kids something to do. And they just play and, you know, I guess they're practicing or just having fun. This particular night, the cops or whoever the powers that be weren't having, I guess they were ready to go home. So they asked the band director to, you know, cut it off. I don't know how many times they had asked him to cut it off before we actually started seeing the filming, but actually we saw it when they asked him to cut it off. The band director was very belligerent and told the cops to get out of my face. And therein lies the issue. You have 2 black parties. The band leader is a cop. Band leader is black. The cops are black. So that's one dynamic right there. Because a lot of people didn't understand how that it was actually a black cop as opposed to a white cop. We would have somewhat understand it in a better context, in my opinion, if it was a white cop. Because it was 2 black cops, it kind of has a whole new different level. So it escalated because I guess somebody put hands on somebody. The band director ended up getting tased.
Multiple times.
3
times. Yeah, 3 times. I don't know how many, but 3 times. And from what started to, you guys seen the show? What was that show with Ali Wong in it? And it started real. What was
Beef?
that? Beef. Remember how the premise of it, how it started, just a small little thing, but by the end of it was huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it kind of reminded me of. I was like, how did we get to these cops tasing a band director all behind a request to cease the music? So I was really upset about it because I'm so sick of the over-policing. And in this count, I'm just sick of them over-policing Black joy. These are just kids on a Friday night in rural Birmingham, Alabama. What more is there to do? You know what I'm saying? They're at school, they're enjoying whatever they're doing, they're creating memories, and all of a sudden they're traumatized now because their leader, their beloved leader, allowing them to do what they do because he got punished for it in such a way that they can't unsee for the rest of their lives. And that part right there bothers me because it's just simple. As simple as that. Now I understand that the band director could have, been a little bit more compliant in the beginning and said, just let us play this out. So I understand how it escalated. But you have two different egos here. You got the egos of the cop that's already built in, and then you have this band director who's, I guess he's ego when thinks he can tell a cop to get out of his face. Mm-hmm. So I see it differently. I understand that people do see it as though if the band director did not act as hostile as he did, it could have ended in a different way. But if it was across town, I don't think these black cops would have been as nasty.
So I want to make a point about what you just said. These black cops, that modifier is not necessary. These cops. So the thing that I think a lot of us get wrong is when we hear about police brutality, we assume that it's a white cop, but it's a cop. It's the blue that matters more than their ethnicity because they're all trained together. They all go somewhere together. And even if they start off, coming from a black neighborhood or being black or Hispanic or whatever, they get trained shooting, expecting black and brown people to be more violent, believing the hype, buying into that same racist mentality that is pervasive throughout ever since the Klan infiltrated the police forces across the nation in the mid-'60s. Like, this has been going on for generations. Mm-hmm. And people are like, well, how come there aren't more black cops to combat that? Because those same racist chiefs at this point don't hire the black cops, the black people that try to go out for the police forces. So you end up with what we got. But the ones that do make it get indoctrinated into believing that black people and to some extent brown people, et cetera, are the more dangerous source. And they'll look at a little white kid with 2 pounds of coke in his jacket pockets and be like, you need to ride home, little boy. Like, it's the mentality is the same. It doesn't matter what the cop looks like. The cop is going to be overly aggressive with a black person or a brown person. Doesn't matter. So you're right. That same cop, even if he had been black or white, is not going to go to the white suburbs and act that way.
Well, one of the things when I first saw the story that Jermaine posted in our chat, I was outraged just because having gone to an HBCU, I appreciate what band culture is in black communities. And, especially with the Marching 100, you always get that little extra. Now, the thing that kind of tilted it a little bit for me was when his insistence on staying interfered with the fact that the lights in the stadium were being turned off. And when I saw the lights being turned off, and I'm imagining 140 kids with their big instruments trying to walk down these metal stairs in pitch blackness, I was concerned that, well, okay, so Vera's putting a little more context on it, which may be, and I'm not excusing the actions of the cops at all. The tasing was completely unnecessary. But you were right too, Jermaine, about egos. Band directors are like pastors.
Yes, they are.
You are going to have an ego up in the mix for sure. Right. And so it is not surprising that he would have that bit of ego on it. But like I say, when I saw the footage and the lights on the field just turned off, I don't even know how you see somebody getting tased. It was dark as hell. And B, that would be a scenario where kids who were scared, if after the tasing started and people started to run, it could be a scenario where there are greater injuries because you can't see where you're going. So
and people getting trampled.
And people are getting trampled, which I definitely wouldn't want any of the kids to be trampled because they were completely blameless in this. These kids were just following their band director. I'm glad that, it didn't go further than it did. I'm sad that it went as far as it did. But it is an example of how, especially when it's black on black, I'm sure y'all remember the famous scene in Boys in the Hood where the black cop was worse than the white cop. If I saw that man in the street today, I still want to punch his teeth out. That one role made me think you were the worst black person on the planet. So your Vera's saying that the band director was placed on administrative leave.
Because I was reading that it was customary. They call it fifth quarter.
Well, I saw that thing. I'm not saying it's not customary for black people who are in bands to do that, but if the fifth quarter violates a city policy, then you just don't get to do it.
And I've seen this happen
Here.
on a grander scale. Erykah Badu came to Atlanta.
Right.
This was a decade ago or more, and she was playing Chastain Park. Now Chastain is like everybody got to get out at 11 o'clock. I don't care.
Right.
The Hollywood Bowl's the same way.
Exactly.
And just like you said, they blinked the lights at like 10:59. Like we done told y'all it's over at 11, and she was just beginning. What is it, Bag Lady? And all we heard was ooh,
Bag.
they turned the electricity off.
Yeah.
Everybody got to go. And she was like, I can't believe they did that. And so we all trying to like sing as a crowd. Next thing you know, they didn't push anybody, but they, like, you just see the security guards opening the gates, like, y'all know what time it is. Y'all know
Right.
how this go. And this is in the heart of one of the blackest cities in the country. They were like, all you black people in this black ass park got to get the black
Right.
out.
Well,
So regardless of fifth quarter or not, if that is something that the band does, but you know, they say when in Rome, that band is in a situation where that is not, we don't do that here. Right. So when they said go, if they call the police, then he must have been doing that long enough for the police to show up. Even if they were just outside in the parking lot, that's a good 5 minutes.
No, she's talking about the police getting to him.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Okay.
Because those were security people who I'm sure were there to manage the egress of the people at the game or whatever. But somebody had to say, he's still playing. Somebody else had to say, I'm finna turn off these lights in 3 minutes. Somebody needs to get him off the thing. And so the police go, they say, hey, look, it's one of these things. I think Vince has the right of it. It is a tough call. It's two competing things. Black tradition. You're in a blackity black state. You're a blackity black band director with your kids. You're trying to fulfill kind of like a cultural thing. But it's, if you're playing, if he had not been playing, if they had been trying to get out, none of this would have happened.
So like Elaine's comment here, he said the band was in two different parts of the stadium and needing directions, but they're still playing instruments.
Exactly.
So, and you're still leading them. And get out of my face.
Right.
Is a part of the situation. I'm not saying he deserved to be tased. I'm not saying he deserved to be arrested. Somebody pointed out, I think it was Vince, they could have given him a citation for failure to disperse.
Right.
But egos do get in the way. And you got a whole pissing contest between him and this cop. And the cop has weapons.
Right.
End of story. And he did have a duty to those students. If you see that, we know the police get aggressive. We know what's going on in this country. He decided to stunt and it didn't go well. That's the way I see it. I mean, I don't think the cops were right, but I also don't think that he was completely blameless, you know?
Do you think this is the first time he ever tried that?
I think this is the first time he got tased doing it, and he may have tried that before, but you know, fuck around and found out works for all kinds of people.
Well, and I don't know if this was the first time that I don't know if he's from Birmingham. I don't know if he was a visiting band. I don't know if this was the first time that it has been that he tried to do it after this edict had been enacted. I don't know. And I tend to agree, Elaine, but I also tend to think that a white band director wouldn't have been trying to play 15 minutes after the game was over.
Exactly. They were going to play themselves onto the bus.
Right. Okay, everybody, let's go. Come on, Bobby, Susie, Becky, Jimmy.
I just hate at every turn, Black joy is just always squashed and overshadowed with trauma.
You know where it's not done? At an HBCU football game.
Well, no doubt. But
CJ says that this band director has a history of doing this. So his actions got caught up to him. Right. He thought he was going to stunt. And when you tell a cop, get out of my face, you have to know that the ego of that cop is not going to let you just disrespect him in front of all these people. Now, everything else that happened after that was way, way too aggressive. They could have just handcuffed him and left him sitting there, but they didn't. They decided to get aggressive with the tasers and everything. None of that was called for. But if I'm licking an electric socket and I get shocked, the fuck you doing licking the socket? Like, I don't think he had to do that. I think that, especially given the climate that we have in the United States right now, you have to know that you are playing Russian roulette with or maybe he thought because the cop was black that he could take that chance because of a skin color solidarity. But again, that cop is a cop and you're not going to disrespect a cop. A lot of police officers have inflated egos along with a sense of like maybe personal insecurity that makes them want to, boss up on you, and you're going to disrespect him like this in front of all these people. And he went off. And again, he had weapons and the band director didn't.
Well,
this is
folding
Senator
chairs
Tommy
around.
Tuberville's Alabama too. Let's be clear.
Well, obviously there weren't any folding chairs around. This is Alabama.
Yeah, Montgomery Brawl had no place.
I don't know.
It
I
was
just kind
Birmingham
of
Pays.
I was just let down for the kids, that's all.
Yeah,
and you make a good point. Violence is not a response to failing to stop. That can never be an appropriate response. But we've seen people get shot and murdered behind a tail light, behind making an illegal lane change, etc. Violence wasn't an answer to any of that. And having that history in your mind and knowing, stop talking trash on my stage, having a history in mind and knowing that any potential interaction with a volatile entity, being the police force writ large across the country, why take that chance just to show off in front of your students who are now traumatized from what has happened?
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. I think this is a good place to leave this here. We have some other things to talk about. I'd like to talk about something that I saw on social media just today, and it deals again with being Black in America and also some of the issues of being Black in America dealing with law enforcement and being Black in America and dealing with law enforcement when your stalker is white. So I saw perhaps one of the longest reels that I have ever seen, and it's this Black woman who's telling her story, and the prompt was, name the most inconsequential decision that you ever made that had the biggest influence on your life. And so this woman said, I went on two dates with this guy, and I really wasn't feeling it. And I told him I wasn't feeling it, and he told me he wasn't feeling it. But then like a week later, he started barraging her with phone calls and texts, and I'm a good guy, you need to give me another chance. And she was just like, whatever. But then he went into full on stalker mode and is sending her pictures of herself at her apartment, sending her pictures of herself at the police department when she's filing a restraining order. A restraining order is just a piece of paper. Blah, 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 blah. He's terrorizing this woman for 7 months, escalations, all of this sort of stuff. She had to cut off all of her social media. She was moving job to job to job because she was in a constant state of anxiety, so she wasn't getting very much sleep. She said one time she fell asleep standing up on the floor of a new job, and finally, the guy got so extreme after she had moved and she thought she had escaped him. What happened was she registered to vote at the new address, and her address became public record again. And so he found her and he told her, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to get away with it. And even with that threat, the police weren't able to do anything. And so she took that threat to the police and she explained to the police what the deal is. The policeman told her, well, I've talked to the guy and he seems like a really nice guy. So I don't really think you have anything to worry about. And, she's got screenshots and all this other stuff. I don't care what a cop's judgment is. If she has screenshots saying, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to get away with it, you've got to treat it seriously. So she said she'd always been anti-gun because her father and mother were shot in a gang initiation, just random drive-by. Her father lost the ability to move below his chest. Her mom ended up being, I guess, okay, but she was just anti-gun. She never wanted to deal with the gun, but she felt in order to protect herself, she needed to get a gun. And a turning point in the story was when he cut off contact. And she said she didn't realize how when he was in contact with her all the time, there was comfort in knowing where he was. He was like, exactly. If you're in the middle of a pool of sharks and you can see the sharks circling you and now the sharks go away, you have anxiety about them not being there because now you don't know where they are. And so she said she bought a gun. She trained herself in how to use the gun. She moved into her living room because she didn't want him to be able to creep into the house and then catch her by surprise in her bedroom. So one night he came, she had put a chair under her door to prevent his entry into the space. He kicked the door in and she said she shot him. And he said, oh shit, you shot me. And that's when she stopped shooting and he ran away. And because he ran away, she said to herself, oh my gosh, was he even here? She went, she was looking for him. She didn't have a sense of whether or not he had gotten away, because she knew she had hit him with the bullets. And she said she called the police, and the police found him. He was hiding in some bushes. He didn't realize how injured he was, and he was hiding in some bushes, and the police found him. He didn't die, but he was put in prison. Okay. And I guess he's still in prison now. And she said she went to a gun range to get a job because she thought that that was a good way for her to kind of reclaim her life. And then she realized that that was a poor decision because it was putting her in contact with too much trauma. And so she eventually got to a call center, and she loved the call center thing. And then 6 years later, she kept climbing through the ranks. They made her a consultant, then they made her a super, whatever. And so now she is 7 years later touring the country, doing seminars and things about violence against women, empowering women to take control of their lives with stalkers and blah, blah, blah. And she said, I'm recording this from Bali because I now have the life I deserve and the life I need. Wow. And so at the end of all of that trauma, she said 2 dates changed her entire life. And the guy was a white guy, and he literally said, you're Black, I'm white, I'm going to get away with it.
Do you think all the documentation that she had of this guy stalking her over all these years, do you think that actually helped her just in case she didn't kill?
Well, it did not seem to impact anything when she was filing the police reports, but I guess because he kicked the door in, they could see that he violently entered her home.
Okay, right.
And, you know, she didn't say what state this came in, but in many states, you have that castle doctrine stuff. So if a person comes into your house, you're authorized to shoot. And so I guess
I'm thinking of all the ways that he still could have gotten off, even though she shot him when he, entered her home.
Well, there was nothing in the documentation that would have made a case, a positive case for him. I'll just say that. Okay. But she's in Bali, so clearly she didn't suffer too many consequences.
But what does that say about me thinking that there's still some kind of way that he can get off? You know what I'm saying? And my dad.
It's a valid question. You bring up a valid point. And Joy, I don't know if you were able to hear. I know that the camera was off, but at the end of it, she ended up kind of on a career path that's not wholly dissimilar from what you do. She's counseling people. She's talking about empowering Black women, talking about, helping women deal with the trauma of stalkers. And she's on vacation in Bali because she is now living the life she says she deserves. She got out of the career path she was in, and she was kicking it in beautiful Bali, living her best life. So that was...
Do law enforcement take stalker incidents and cases seriously? At what point can it be escalated to where we have to do more than just a restraining order? Because I feel like it's very thin.
That's a really good question. And the way that we treat stalkers in the United States is a great example of how, as much as we all lament the insidious evil of racism, sexism is that much stronger.
No, women get no love.
People don't take stalkers. Like you can get more time for 2 ounces of crack than you can for rape, right? And so unless there is physical evidence on you, they won't even. Sometimes they won't even give you a restraining order. It's lucky that she had all of those screenshots and everything. You could come. I could open my door every day and see you looking at me, and licking your lips or whatever, and I can't do anything about it because you haven't done anything. And that's until I have something that I can prove is a threat, they won't even let me file a restraining order. And domestic violence is on the rise because the police were like, well, one, they don't want to get involved with domestic violence, and two, for a long time in this country, it was seen as a family issue. Handle that at home. They wouldn't even come out for a domestic violence call. But you can't. The whole thing with stalkers is very, very It's not enough. I don't know how to make it a fancy word, but it's not enough.
Do you think that
thank you, Elaine,
Go ahead.
Well, Elaine just put something on. I just put Elaine's comment on screen that provides some context for the discussion we're having in this moment. So, wow, many police have only a high school education, don't appreciate the law. Say that. Yeah. Sorry, CJ, we're not just talking about your state this time.
Well, I feel like we reinforce it because we use stalking and the whole idea around stalking so frivolously in conversation. It's like we just...
again, from the massage, I'm sorry, I cut you off. I'm just
No, go
excited,
ahead.
but
No, but
you
go
know, you
ahead.
make a good point about how we'll say, you know,
I have a
stalking this,
stalker,
and
and we're
yeah, I got
kidding.
a stalker. Yeah, oh yeah, my ex-boyfriend stalking me just because he called you to a couple of times.
Right.
But the same thing is true of the word rape. Like when I play video games for a long time, and I'm saying like until maybe a couple of years ago, if you would camp out where somebody was like getting respawn, like they die and they come back in the game, the respawn point, people would camp out there and just shoot you every time you respawn, and they called it spawn raping. They're spawn raping us. And I used to hear it all the time. And then I would ask people, can you stop saying spawn raping? Can you call it something else? I mean, it doesn't mean nothing, you know. And they would say, you know, let's go in this dungeon and rape this witch or whatever, like whatever it is. And it was always the word rape. Everything was super, super hyper violence against women, to the point where I stopped playing with people because this guy told me, I mean, I can't stop saying rape. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Really? Okay, then I can't play with you because you're making me feel unsafe. Oh, don't be a pussy. That's what he told me. So clearly, now I will say this, I appreciated that the rest of my clan was like, because we call them like our clan, not like K clan, C clan.
Right.
But the rest of my clan was like, yeah, we don't fuck with that dude no more because of how he was trying to deal with me. The video game industry as a whole has had to talk about that. But my point is, think back to that, what was it? Bruce Butch something. I can't remember the kid's name, but the guy who was on the swim team and about to go to Ivy League school, whatever, he tried to rape that woman behind the dumpster.
No, it did rape her behind the dumpster.
He raped her behind the dumpster.
Yes,
and they're like, well,
here, that happened here in California.
In California.
Yeah, and the judge was like, well, he's a good kid and we don't want to mess up his future. This woman's life is ruined. Like she's going to be traumatized for the rest of her life. Right. And you can only worry about his academic career. Right. And the fact that he got away with it, right? Essentially, all of that speaks to how women are devalued in our society. Brock Turner, thank you. Yeah. Yes, that's the one. But that's how women are devalued. So your point, Jermaine, I know I spoke too long on it, is why is it not enough? Because the people that make the laws, largely men, they don't care. But it's interesting. Men act like, and I know it's not all men, et cetera, but men act like they don't know any rapists. They don't know anyone that's ever committed a sexual assault. They don't know anybody that would do anything like that. But I know every woman I know either has been or immediately knows someone that has been sexually assaulted.
Well, they don't define it as rape. Joy.
They don't. Yeah, because I listened to this guy in the gym talk about how women, you know, they just be saying no, but they mean yes. And I'm like, you're a rapist. Yeah. I don't know if you know that, but you are, because you're sitting here telling me
let them know.
Right, that you were having a moment with this woman and she wanted to make out, but then you were like, no, we've come too far, and you just kept going. That's called rape, dude. Yeah. And he's like, no.
And they see it as foreplay.
Yeah.
They don't call it
and he had daughters.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And his daughters were at the time were college age. And I was like, talk to your daughters. I bet you they will tell you they got a story like this. And he's like, no, they don't, because I raised them right. I said, see, that comment right there. Right. You're saying that it's a woman's fault. It was how she was raised. If she gets attacked, and none of that is true. So this entire society views women as accessories to men to be used and discarded. And
but
if you complain about it,
it's also a generational thing too, because I have my grandmother, and I love her to death, sweet lady. You know, whenever she would see young girls dressed, they would call it loose. She would put the onus on the women as to like look a little bit more modest to keep men from, you know, approaching her in a way that she wouldn't want to be approached.
Yeah.
And I've heard that not just with her, but a lot of older people, they put more so the onus on the women as to combat, you know, anybody that would threaten them in a sexual way. So I feel like it's more of a generational thing, and it's a today's mentality that things that they would consider as just men being men would actually be defined as rape.
Yeah.
So, and that's where even the whole toxic masculinity thing that you brought up in the chat. Back in the day, there wasn't any assigned nomenclature to toxic masculinity. It just wasn't. It was just what men did.
Right.
And oftentimes women, that's what they wanted in a husband, someone who was going to overprotect them, you know, go out and just, and then come home and dominate because they felt safe. That was the culture. And as time went on, I guess as women became a lot more empowered, a lot more liberated, you started hearing it. It wasn't probably, I didn't first hear toxic masculinity probably to like maybe out of college.
Yeah, it's a recent term.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
But I've seen the behavior my entire life, but I didn't necessarily, define it as being something as toxic masculinity.
You make a good point, Vince.
And you were saying something, Jermaine, about women dressing loose and being provocative. There are entire religions with 1 billion or more adherents across this globe where women are expected to completely cover their bodies so as not to offer temptation to a man. And the fact that the man cannot control himself is not factored at all into the equation. It's an expectation that a man would be driven to animalistic behavior at the sight of a woman who was not completely covering anything that could be considered attractive about them. And
let's not act like that was just those religions, because if you go back to Victorian era Great Britain, an ankle out was lascivious. And if a woman was in a room with a man for more than 15 minutes, she was ruined. She was ruined because the assumption was that he would have attacked her, and that's her own fault for being in there without a chaperone.
But I'm saying Jermaine was talking about the changing of the times. Gradually, those Victorian principles kind of faded away. Some of the puritanical things faded away, but we still have people on this planet today. Even to the extent that you look at the Bollywood movies, all of that dancing where most everybody's covered up, but they're still shaking the body parts that are designed to entice, and all of those movements that are supposed to look sexually attractive, they're all covered. But it's just, it still hugs the body. You can still supposed to excite you, but you're all covered up, so it's okay that there's 25 women doing the and the dudes are doing the same thing, so it's innocent. But that's the whole point. We can't let the idea that men are completely slaves to their id and women have to be absolutely circumspect, because rape has nothing to do with physical attraction or sexual attraction. It is a power dynamic. It is a power imbalance. It is about domination. It is not about sexual desire. It's really
a shifting
disorder.
Mindset.
I get it. I'm just saying, but as a person in the, I'm at the end of the shift. Shit, I'm about to be 55. So we need to make sure that ensuing generations do not continue and perpetuate that particular strain of bullshit. We need to put that in the past for real.
So I want to point something out. Jermaine, you said earlier that, in generations past, even the women would, if they hear about a woman being attacked, well, she shouldn't have had that on.
Exactly.
She needed to cover up her parts and everything, all those kind of things. Just the same way we have Black people that think that Black people are the problem. You have, because they've been indoctrinated into white supremacy condition. You have women that have been conditioned into toxic masculinity as well. I've seen women say, he told me he loved me, and I thought that was soft. I'm like, how the fuck? What? He was a punk because I saw him crying at his dad's funeral. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? But they bought into that same mentality of toxic masculinity because that may be all they've seen. That's their normal. They grew up with that. And so dismantling that, unfortunately, the same way you'll have someone pull up a Tim Scott and say, see, racism is okay because he said he's not bothered by it or whatever. That's the same people that will say, well, this woman agrees with me. Matter of fact, there's a comedian, it's Mel Mitch. That's her name on Instagram. And she does this fake toxic masculinity podcast. And she has a woman on the podcast with these two fake men. She plays all the parts. But she's like, the woman is like, yeah, because my man, if I had a man, I'd just be like, I would just cook dinner all the time. And if he want to leave the house, then he can leave the house. And I just sit there and wait for him to come back. And she's joking about it.
Right.
But we used to call them pick-me's, right? There's all these women that their desire to be accepted by a man because they define their success in life around whether or not they're in a relationship. Doesn't have to be a good one either. Just a man in their life. That conditioning has been there. I was conditioned like that. Yeah. Like I miss my parents, but at the same time, that driving desire to get married and have children died with my mother. Yeah. And she was the one pushing me for that. And when she died, it was like, I don't want to marry none of these. It's all of a sudden, right? I don't have no kids. Fuck them kids. So all of that changed I'm trying to add a little levity because we're talking about some serious stuff, but
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah,
But it's
even
one
like
of those
think about,
issues that goes up and down. Like this new wave of toxic masculinity now, I feel like it's a response to this young generation, especially the young men who are, remember when skinny jeans came out and all the young guys wearing skinny jeans? All of a
Mhm.
sudden there was this, well,
Never understood that.
well, still, but
Yeah.
toxic masculinity was surrounding that because guys were coming across as looking a little bit too thin. So you had a whole lot of guys trying to assert their masculinity by that. When Me Too was really, really popular, there was a whole influx of toxic masculinity. So I have a feeling that it's just one of those things that you just never know what's going to, affect it and make men act in those very negative emotions that tend to reverberate in society.
And
Do you think it'll die out at some point, guys? Like, what is
I
it?
think it continues to morph, just like racism is trying to rally and find its footing again and again and again, and it continues to adjust to the current times. You're right. Skinny jeans was seen as too effeminate, but I mean, you look back at some of the fashions of the '60s and '70s, Earth, Wind, and Fire back in the day, Bootsy Collins and them.
Bell bottoms like this.
Yeah.
Bell bottoms like this. They got on a gold chain shirt that you would only find on a dude at a Beyonce concert now, right? Which honestly, they look good in it too. But my point is, trying to use fashion to determine somebody's masculinity is ridiculous.
Right.
Trying to define masculinity is only a small band of I can catch hoes. I mean, that's ridiculous. And it leads to misunderstandings. I saw something earlier. This older man on Instagram, he was being interviewed. He said, I'll tell you this, women didn't become bitches until men became dogs. And I was like, that's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Oh,
I feel like within certain contexts, people can understand and accept that behavior. Like when Prince was wearing his heels and his ass out, guys were like, I mean, they didn't want to see it, but there wasn't this talk around that you have around guys out in the wild.
I mean, but see the difference, and this is something that people don't always appreciate, and I'm gonna provide a little context because I am a Prince stan. Whatever Prince was wearing, he could take your chick and her mama. And if he looked the wrong way at you, you'd probably be running after his ass as well. So Prince was like on some different shit.
Prince is an exception to everything.
Prince was like, he was like just the embodiment of whatever. And so it's to your point though. You look at those album covers like the Isley Brothers, right?
Yeah.
You look at those album covers of like, you said Earth, Wind, and Fire. That's a good example. But really, anybody in the 70s, they had V-necks down to the top of their balls.
Yeah.
They had gold chains, nipples was out, coochie cutting shorts with silver lame boots and all that shit. I mean, it's like, I don't like short Pimpin' Prince with a gun.
You can't hear me, CJ?
Everybody.
Wait, CJ, ma'am, we don't need your divisive comments.
Conspiracy. Oh, CJ, it is not about that. Oh, did you put it back on there? Listen, we kind of jumped over this one thing, but since we've been on so many heavy topics, I'd like, if I could, to bring in something about being Black in America that all three of us can relate to since we're all in Greek letter organizations. And that is the trend, the viral trend of renounce and denounce. Now, this week, I don't know if you all saw this. Oh, Ohio players. There it is. 1970 Soul Train. There was a woman this week who was a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha for 20 years. And she came on the social medias and was talking about how when she was presented in probate, it was a public thing, and she had renounced in private. She said she had denounced and renounced in private, and somebody said, denunciation implies to an audience, so that never could have been private. But now she's on social media doing it, and she thanks the Lord for her man who opened her eyes to the devil that was in her life, and da 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 da. So, for those of you who are in the Black Greek letter community, the general consensus, I have not seen anybody who has had anything different to say in the BGLO community. It's like, girl, bye. You are not at the airport. You don't need to announce your departure. Just go and do that. And and I said, get the hints. And I said, it's really interesting that it took 20 years. You had 20 years of sisterhood with your line sisters and everybody else.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden your man says, who you know is not in a fraternity.
Right.
You know that, right? Everybody that, right? So all of a sudden he said boo to you, and it's the devil. And for people who are not in these Greek letter organizations, and you may have heard this, that, and the third, and blah, blah, blah. I know for my organization in particular, the Bible is at every frat meeting.
Yeah.
So, you know, and you people who are talking about, oh, but you're swearing allegiance to this, that, and the third, y'all be the same people who watched Charlton Heston in the 10 Commandments swear he was Moses in real life,
Right,
and don't realize that whatever well,
it's always
I hope she
projection.
paid him over 20 years, but who said, was she actually going to chapter meeting? Was she actually doing anything, or was she just looking cute? And the turn of it that really had people laughing is, you know, she was in a beautiful green ensemble as she did her denunciation.
Oh, she had both.
Cute. I mean, so Joey, going ahead.
So CJ's comment, you know, he couldn't make lines. He wants you to feel bad. It's more than that. That is classic narcissistic behavior to separate you from people that might help you discern the bullshit that this man is feeding you. He's going to start isolating her from her sorority, made her do it publicly, or influenced her to do it publicly. Next is going to be her friends, then it's going to be her family. Watch this. And he's going to slowly take over every aspect of her life. And she is letting him, because like so many women in our age band, success in your life is predicated on whether or not you can get a man.
Right.
Like one of the things that I will never forget is the movie Bend It Like Beckham, if y'all remember that movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And there's an Indian family in there, and the Indian daughter, who's one of the main characters, is just they're just talking about stuff, and her mother's like, you'll never get married if you do this, you never get married if you do that. And she's like, Mom, it's not the end of the world, whatever. And then she goes, look at Aunt Tracy, or whatever her name was. She's a psychiatrist, she's this and she's that. And the mother says she's divorced, is what she is. All of her accomplishments pale in comparison to the fact that she doesn't have a man. And I've seen that even in my own friend group. We don't mean to do it, but we do it anyway. You know, you catching up with your girls. Hey, how you been? Who you dating? That's like the first or second question that comes out. How's your love life? Not, you know, is your business off the ground? Is your health good? You know, are you happy working or whatever you're doing? Like, how's your love life? Who you dating? Is there anyone special in your life? Me. Yeah. I'm special in my life. How about that?
But back to the whole denunciation thing, I've seen that happen. Like there was a couple of videos I've seen, a couple of Deltas. They renounced, you know, their whole DST membership and stuff like that. And I always feel like it's more of a personal thing, but they just use something else as a cover for it. I feel like there's something in-house that they didn't get, so they just want to go ahead and just banner it with something else. I don't get it. And why do you have to go public with it anyway? Like, isn't it a personal decision? Like, what is that about?
There was a young cat from my own home chapter, and this was maybe 3 years ago. So he was barely in, and he got on it, and he was talking about, you know, my pastor has taught me that the end is coming, and I needed to get right. And so, and da. I'm like, okay, so it's 3 years later now, and the end has not come. How that pastor be?
And you still wearing letters?
Yeah, well, no, he's not. No,
he's not. Okay.
He said he chopped it off. But my whole thing is that people who listen to pastors who talk about the end are clearly ignoring the Bible passages that say no man knows when the end is. So if you talk about, you know, if you're talking about something, Seventh-day Adventists thought the world was going to end in 1844. Sure.
So how do they explain the Masons and Eastern Stars? Because they're often affiliated with the church. So how does that come into the equation?
Listen, man, it ain't no sense. My whole thing is that it'll be 35 years for me in March. I love my Sands to death. We are still all in each other's lives. You know, thankfully, text threads allow us to keep in contact. We Jones on each other. When I went into the hospital, my Sands were hitting me up constantly. We had a prayer circle. I have a couple of Sands that are pastors. I have one of my Sands, Tyrone Blue, who is sending me now special messages every day
Oh, that's nice.
Since I've been hospitalized. Inspirational messages, a Bible passage, and then just kind of like a popular, positive pastoral message every day. And I just know that there has not been anything in my life and walk with the fraternity that has taken me away from my faith. And I've got a brother who's a priest, and before he was a priest, he was actually in the interest group at FAM. He didn't pledge, but I'm just saying, for anybody who thinks, if you're one of those people who like looks at a chapter or looks at a particular verse and says that's going to govern my whole activity around this whole thing, that is not a way to be a quote unquote Christian. You don't turn your back for a specious reason. If you have a good reason, that's fine. But if you have a good reason, you're probably just going to be quiet about it, because
that's what I'm saying. Like personal thing,
when you denounce and when you if you denounce as opposed to just renounce, because those are two different things. If you renounce, fine, go on ahead and go back to Chick-fil-A. If you are denouncing, now you well, because that's the Lord's sandwich. So if you are denouncing, then you are trying necessarily to proselytize other people to give up their experience.
You're trying to,
and that's where I have a problem. Go on ahead, take your balloons, float off into the sky. That's fine. Exactly, Vera. It's just one of those things. I thought I would bring a little levity to it because we were hitting some hard hitting topics, and I wanted, as we transition into more of our political stuff, because we do have some stuff that we think you all will find amusing.
Before we get off of that, though, I didn't get a chance to show this picture last week, but since CJ gave me the perfect lead into, just remember, if you want to denounce your group, just sorrows.
Prayer.
That's
Look
me
at
in
Queen
the middle.
Charlotte.
Yes,
Look at Queen Charlotte.
A couple weeks ago,
Queen
along
Charlotte.
with another royal group that was with us. So we was killing them in these streets.
Yeah, that was.
Are you going to debut that again this Halloween?
Yes. Why not?
I'd love to see it.
I don't know if it's talking about in these streets. I don't know if you all keep up with Jennifer Lewis. It's Jennifer Lewis and Brandy. So
and Todrick.
And then there's sometimes well, Todrick was in the one before this last one I saw.
Oh, okay.
But the first one was she ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time for that shit. And then they did one with Todrick, and now it's just her and Brandy who did one. So this is like Jennifer's little thing.
It's been out for a couple of years.
Exactly. It's been out there for years, but I just saw this new one with Brandy for the first time today. And it made me think of this because every time she drops one of the things, I'm like, see, this is my anthem for the week, because
I don't want nobody with me in
these streets. She sings so hard.
Oh yeah.
If y'all haven't read her book, Jennifer Lewis's book, oh my God.
No, I have it right here.
You have it?
Yeah,
hold it up.
Here. In fact,
let's advertise it.
That's my tablet.
Oh, that's top of the
tablet. So
Sorry,
go get Jennifer Lewis. She is an icon. She is a legend. Go ahead and get Jennifer Lewis's book. It will change your life.
The mother of Black Hollywood.
Every I was Tupac's mama.
I learned some things about Gregory Hines I ain't need to know.
And who was that she was it John Voight that she had a fling with? It was some
she had a fling with.
John Voight. It was some Oscar.
I think it was John Voight. I think he's in there too.
God.
It's a lot of people in there. But I mean, the culmination of the understanding is that she dealt with like sexual addiction. And before we knew what that was, but then she also lives a very unapologetic and in your face life. And so she was like, I fucked him too. Like it's interesting. The book is really, really good.
Well, she said she bought a house when she was in the middle of a manic depressing episode. I thought that was really, really insane. How do you just buy a house, escrow? Let me go through the whole process in a state like that.
I'm not going to. My mother told me a story while she was out here rehabilitating with me with a friend who moved over the course of almost 2 years, 11 times. Different states, even not just different things. Yes. and CJ is bringing some light onto Jennifer Lewis. And I didn't mean to take a left turn into Jennifer Lewis town. And I know that Jermaine had a final black thing that we wanted to talk about before we got out of it with the Crown Act.
Yes.
We had a young man who had locks or twists, braids. It's kind of hard to tell in the picture I saw. But he was suspended.
It was both. It was locks that had been braided up into a design.
And they were only braided up to fit within the guidelines of that particular school, because if he had them braided, they would be down. He'd be past regulation. Right. What it is, this particular school district is Chambers County, outside of Houston. They are the entire reason that the whole Crown Act even came into view in any way. About 3 years ago, his brother named DeAndre Arnold. He was, I don't know if he sued them or something happened, but anyway, the case started building. They started looking into legislation, but it was because of the incident that happened in that particular county as to why, this thing even happened anyway. So the whole issue is the school district redefining what the Crown Act is. The Crown Act pretty simply says it's protecting styles within schools, workplaces, anywhere. You can't discriminate against Black people where they have protected styles. And the school district is saying it doesn't address length. So what the guy did, because his locks are long, his mother just pinned them up to where they won't pass his eyebrows or his earlobes. But they're still saying that that's against regulation, because if they were to somehow come down, he would be in violation. So they're just nitpicking, as Texas, what they do in Texas. They try to find a way around it, kind of like what they did with the Civil Rights Act, where the Little Rock Nine was still freaking persecuted, even though federally they could go to integrated schools. Right. So that's what this particular school district is doing. And that's why there's so much pushback. I guess if you look at it from their perspective, they could be right, because there is no language within the particular law that says that, the hair length has to be
It is a loophole.
It's a loophole. But on its face, it's a very deliberate, attack. And they're trying to assert their dominance, once again, over policing, because they're just mad that, the law sided with, against them. I don't know what gives. Actually, Representative Ron Reynolds, frat, he was a co-author of that particular bill, and he's right now they're trying to build a coalition to see if they really have any merit to fight this, or if it's going to stay in school suspension until things are resolved. I don't know how it's going to happen. Do you guys find it to be a loophole-ish thing, or like what?
I actually don't, because if the legislation is about natural styles, a natural style does not inherently a natural style does not deal with the issue of length. If it's a natural style, then it should be protected. And if you're saying, well, we have a length guideline, then enforce the length guideline. What you're saying, a white girl with a ponytail can't have a ponytail because the ponytail might come undone. So if it comes undone, then fix it. Right. That momentary thing. What are you saying, that the hair is so distracting that if one little tendril of a lock falls down his back, what, the school's going to explode or something? That is the dumbest shit I have ever heard. Now, obviously, I ain't worried about my hair length at this point, but if you are protecting a student's ability to express him or herself in a natural style in which their hair naturally grows, then you should not have limitations on that, unless it interferes with someone else. If you say that a swinging thing of hair could get in somebody's, milk or whatever, that's one thing. But the boy tied his hair up to be in compliance. You don't say you're suspended from school for 2 weeks because a lock that has never come unlocked out of the bun might come unlocked. That's bullshit.
Well, it's the spirit of vindication is basically what it is. They're just trying to find a way to get back at it, because they know they lost the case when it was passed, because the Crown Act just went into effect September 3rd. So it's a very vindictive energy behind it anyway, but they have standing because, they didn't address length within the actual piece of legislation. So,
but again, if you say it's a natural hairstyle, then length is a part of the style.
Yeah. Well, you can pick apart any kind of.
I don't know how you can say a Crown Act. Yeah. So if it's let's just say Joy is wearing her hair on the top of her head right now. So you're saying her hair does not go beneath its earlobes, but if she,
and that's the ambiguity of it, Tom.
That's not ambiguity. Hairstyle means hairstyle. If you
No, I
ever,
understand what Jermaine is saying is, if I say I'm wearing my hair natural, like somebody mentioned it earlier, like what person thinks here is at the bottom of this? What
right,
person thinks that most locks are worn less than 2 inches long? You can barely lock your hair at
right,
2 inches long and
it's
also
got to
come
be
loose.
longer.
But to your point, if you're going to enforce length, then I need every girl to have her hair cut off at her chin.
Exactly.
I need every boy to have his hair cut off at his ears or what have you, so that if we're talking length, then it has to be all length. It can't just be just because this person's length is a problem. Right. Now, reinforce it everywhere. Be uniform with it, but they're not. So they're just picking on this kid because they don't want to see him succeed because racism.
But also, I don't believe if the style is neat. And
neat is subjective.
Okay, if the style don't stank and don't have lice in it,
stank is subjective.
Yeah,
a lot of people think shea butter is a distracting smell.
If it doesn't have lice ain't subjective.
Lice ain't nothing we worry about.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's all this is from the white man's lens, guys. Yes. And ways they project. Clearly, and that's the issue at heart. It's like the way they see it. It's not neat enough for them.
Right.
You know.
Right. The whole like neat, professional, and it's not distracting. It's only distracting because you're bothered by it. You don't have to be bothered by it.
You sure don't, because it's
not. You're not bothered by these crater-sized pimples on these kids' face. Why are you bothered by his hair that is behind him?
Joy, you on one?
Okay, I just came back to life.
Jesus.
She said crater size. I have seen pictures of cystic acne, and I gotta say, I don't. That's a lie. There was at least one person in my high school class that had acne that was so tragic. I never said anything about it, but you know, when I saw that person, I'm not even going to gender that person because I don't want to give any hints or clues, but that person's acne was distracting.
Yeah.
It was like, well, damn.
Yeah.
And I never really, I had breakouts just like everybody else, but it was never like bad. It wasn't ever like retinol A bad for me. But this person, ooh boy, howdy.
Just the fact that we all three live with lice amongst our white brethren in school, and we didn't make a big stink about it because that was gross as fuck. I saw it on many a head.
and cystic acne is life altering because, like, there's a medicine that they give you, and they only give it to you once or twice in your life. It's called Accutane. And I took that when I was 13 and 14 years old. Yeah. And they told me at the time that if I'm 13, 14 years old, that like if you get pregnant, you're gonna have to get an abortion because the baby was going to have severe birth defects. Like you were going to give birth to an alien. Is that serious? Accutane ain't nothing to fuck with. Ain't nothing to joke with. And then once you take it, it's so damaging to your body that like, okay, you can't take this again, like ever. Yeah. So yeah, I feel for the cystic acne. Luckily for me, it was not directly on my face. Yeah. That's the only thing that saved me. But it's traumatizing. Yeah.
Well, another thing that is traumatizing for me is seeing footage of a sitting member of Congress in a theater watching a performance of Beetlejuice the musical, which in and of itself is disturbing enough because the actor looks nothing like Michael Keaton. He was overweight. He had a full-on beard. It just didn't make any sense. But Lauren Boebert was in the audience. Lauren Boebert of the Cultural Warrior cast, 36-year-old Mima, Lauren Boebert, who got pregnant at 16, married her husband almost immediately, divorced that husband 20 years later because he was showing his junk to minors. And then her child, her oldest son, who was born when she was 16, got a girl pregnant. And so she's 36 and a Mima, and is in a performance of Beetlejuice the musical, pretending like she knows the words. We didn't put that banner up.
Wait, CJ, we was right ahead of you. We had that banner ready.
So sitting in this theater, whooping it up like this is not the Rocky Horror Picture Show where the songs have been in the public consciousness for 40 years.
Yeah.
This is Beetlejuice the musical. Beetlejuice the movie was not a musical, except the fact that it had 2 Harry Belafonte songs in it.
Yeah.
That's it. It was not. So don't tell me, Lauren Boebert, that you have seen a Beetlejuice the music cast album recording so that you know the songs. What are you singing along with?
Yeah.
And the CCTV infrared cameras that basically looked like the lights was on with your date groping the shit out of your titties.
Oh my gosh.
And you
put
had
his
your
hand down
hand
his
so
thing.
far in his lap, it
Yeah.
looked like you were digging for oysters.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I guess she kind of technically was. So she eventually got kicked out. There was a pregnant woman behind her, and she was vaping. Lauren Boebert was vaping, and she denied that she was vaping.
It's right there. You can see the smoke and everything.
They pulled the receipts, and she was like, "Oh well." Fuck.
Yeah.
And so now I've fallen short of my morals and values. The thing that she fell the most short on is that her date is a Democratic operative who owns a bar or a restaurant that does drag shows. So on top of everything else,
she's walking
campaigning for children and drag shows and da-da-da-da-da. Your date, whose dick you had in your hand in a public space.
She's a walking contradiction. Yeah.
Walking hypocrite.
Yeah.
I watched all 6 minutes of that footage.
Do we know anything about her electorate, like the people that she represented? She's in one of the is she in one of those districts that like Marjorie Taylor Greene is in, where it's just very sparse?
She barely got reelected. She almost lost.
I'm talking about before she came, not this last one. But like initially, like how did she even get there with all of this baggage?
It was a dearth of candidates for one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And she rode on the Trump wave when Trump came.
I see. Okay.
But she got reelected by 525 votes.
Narrowly. That went into recount several times. I remember.
Well, and so this Frisch is his name, the guy who's running against her. Yeah. They were trying to kind of have her hew a little bit more to constituent issues in her own district, as opposed to trying to be this cultural warrior on the national stage. And they thought maybe she was doing a pretty good job of, well, there's that, because it is Colorado. So it would have been legal. If you look at the footage, y'all got to go look at the footage. It is not difficult to see.
Yeah.
She was acting up. That was not tobacco.
Yeah, she was high.
She was high as fuck.
Right.
Yeah.
High as
She pulled that "You Know Who I Am" card when they were leaving.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do know.
Whoa. Is this true?
Wait, what?
Really?
Oh, hell no.
That is some bullshit.
Oh.
That is the shit of a bull right there.
Well, whoever's running against her has all the ammo he needs after that footage, because it's done.
Well, I mean, hopefully the commercials will still come out next year as the election cycle really heats up. They don't have anybody to replace her, and incumbency is a big important card to play. Mm-hmm. But I think we are all hoping that Frisch will be able to unseat her, and that would be good because, of course, Kevin McCarthy has only the slenderest of margins, and we're all pretty sure that DeSanto is not going to get reelected.
No.
So it doesn't take too many just to flip the House back over, and so that's what we need to focus on, folks.
Speaking of, we had some pretty good. There were some special elections this past week, guys.
Oh, that's right, New Hampshire.
Yeah, and we have really done well. I mean, we keep talking about these top of the tickets, but it's like these down ballots. We're just proving how steady we are. And I honestly think it's still the reverberation from the whole Roe versus Wade reversal. I feel like that is still in the ether right now, and people are voting that issue. And I feel like that's something that can carry us into 2024. That's why I don't worry so much about these big ticket elections. I just don't, because I just don't see how there can be two different schools of thought when you have people winning down ballot. Then all of a sudden you want somebody different that's going to be the top. I don't get that.
Here's the thing that people don't recognize. It was about 100,000 votes across 3 states that resulted in Trump winning. Mm-hmm. In the 3 states, the things that were tipped, Democratic voters voted for Jill Stein instead of voting for Hillary Clinton.
So we're still blaming Jill
what
Stein.
gender?
I'm gonna blame Jill Stein.
I'm not blaming. I'm just saying the facts are the facts.
Mm-hmm.
The 33,000 in Michigan, the this many in Pennsylvania, this many, and I think it was Wisconsin. What do you think the likely gender and race of those Jill Stein voters were?
White women
didn't vote. So Trump can't lose anyone. He can't lose anyone, and he has lost some suburban white women with this Roe thing. Let's go all the way back to
white women are the main ones getting abortions because they need to maintain their image of virginity, of purity, etc. They'll just go do a summer in Europe and come back with no kid or what have you, or a little sister or something. Meanwhile, black women are like, look, I'm popping this kid out. I got to go back to work.
Right.
So and that's a different dynamic.
It's not even just a matter of maintaining purity. Some of these white women don't care about having kids. It's something that they don't want to deal with. They've got their careers popping. They've got this happening. They've got whatever. That's not my business. You deal with it, deal with it early. That's what Plan B is all about. Mifepristone or whatever. Handle biz. But Trump can't lose anything. Polls don't mean shit. He lost by 7 million popular votes, lost by popular votes against Clinton, and it was only those 3 states. And yes, I blame Jill Stein or not. This is why I blame Jill Stein. You were not going to win. Yeah. So when you do something, you're not going to win, and it
wasn't going to win, and her votes were coming from the non-Trump sector.
Exactly. Trumpers weren't voting for her. So yes, that's a vanity play. Nader did the same thing in Florida. I
feel like it was a combination thing, because remember they said that toward the end that she sort of omitted those 3 states that she should have gone to. I think Michigan and Wisconsin were the 2 of them, because she thought she had them shored up. So I felt like it was that. I felt like it was her baggage from being, a part of the Clinton administration. And
people didn't like Clinton.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not laying it all at the feet of Jill Stein, but at the end of the day, when you look at Jill Stein's votes in those states, they would have been enough to tip the election to Hillary.
But you do make a valid point, Jermaine. She did take her eye off the ball. Yeah. She was busy doing her victory dance a little early and thought she didn't have to keep working, and got killed at the finish line.
Well, she thought that like we did. We thought, how in the hell can this man be elected? She did, because that's what I thought. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was shell shocked that Wednesday morning.
I knew she wasn't gonna win, and I've said this before, and I stand by it. There is no way, because remember, the power structure in the United States is still largely white male.
You weren't going to go from black man to white woman.
Not 8 years of a black man to 4 years of a woman, because that is a 12-year gap. That is a generation of children that would have never seen a white man in the highest office in the land. They were never going to let that happen. I don't care who it was. And a lot of people were saying, like, well, Trump was her best chance of getting elected because he was a buffoon. Y'all don't understand. Hillary was Trump's best chance at getting elected because she's the only one that gave him a shot, because people will take an idiot man over a woman, right? That was another factor to it. I still maintain, and I will die on this hill if you want to debate me about it, if Bernie had gotten that nomination, Bernie would have been president. I think he could have beaten Trump in that first race.
If I will say this, if Biden had run, Biden would have wiped the floor with Donald Trump. Wiped the floor with Donald Trump. And even with Hillary as his running mate, he would have wiped the floor with Donald Trump.
And that would have set the stage for her to be president after that.
It would have, because you could have dealt with it. Joe, you wouldn't have heard Sleepy Joe, because he would have just been off the heels of his 8 years with Obama. He would have been 4 years younger. This would be his second term, so you wouldn't have to worry about, who's going to succeed him. And Hillary would have had a chance to kind of soften.
Well, then we have Obama to blame for that, because Obama was from what I understand.
Obama basically promised it to her.
Exactly. That's why she.
But see, again, it was her ego that demanded that promise. Because guess what? You lost, sis.
Yeah.
He beat your ass 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's not because he didn't win because you gave him the win. He won because he won.
He kicked your ass.
He beat you. And
I remember that conversation on the campaign
Okay.
trail where people were like, he should just concede or whatever. He goes, I'm winning. Why would I concede if I'm winning? I'm kicking her ass.
And that was her hubris even back then. So the problem is that she thought she was getting too old. Look, Angela Merkel ain't been out of job in 12, 15 years. People love the stanky draws of Angela Merkel. You could have worked it out. You could have read the tea leaves. You could have decided your husband had a tarnished legacy. People don't like dynasties. If you had stayed in working it, because she quit even as Secretary of State. She didn't even stay in. Yes, she did. She was not as Secretary of State the whole time. Sure was not.
Over John Kerry?
I don't know if it was John. Well, I'm going to let one of the Sharpies, because they're quicker on the thing, and we're nearing an hour and a half. So, but
Jermaine, we cut you off. You had something to say about?
Yeah, go ahead.
I forgot, what was I saying?
I don't know. We're all stream of consciousness right now.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot. Okay.
Well, since we were in Hobart, and we can close out the show. We have 2 Trump segments to talk about.
That we were not in Hobart.
Oh, that's definitely not the place to be. That's true.
No. There's enough people in there already.
Obviously, enough fingers, enough everything. So we have 2 more segments about Trump. So we're dealing right now. We mentioned McCarthy in passing. McCarthy has no control over his caucus.
No, he doesn't.
No control over his caucus. And he's saying, I saw another little social media thing where it was like with a male speaker, McCarthy's like, well, it's impossible to get anything done. And they said with a female speaker, and there was just like Inflation Reduction Act, this thing, CHIP Act, and Pelosi had the same margin.
Right.
But Pelosi could whip votes.
Yeah.
And Kevin McCarthy has this wing, this Gates-led bullshit wing, who just wants to fuck everything up. They're just nihilists, really. And so right now we are careening towards a shutdown. We are at the end of the extension that McCarthy hammered out with Biden. And you got on the Senate side, Tuberville holding up hundreds and hundreds of military promotions. And on the House side, you've got these people who didn't even pass a defense bill, punted on a defense bill. They thought that would be kind of like a canary in the coal. And McCarthy is acting, first of all, it took 15 votes, bro. There is no one to replace you. They might do a vote of no confidence, but there is no one to replace you. Nobody else has the support. So stop acting like such a trick. Yeah. I mean, they can threaten that all they want. They can say all they want, but that walking jar of Brill cream, Matt Gaetz, can't really do anything to you. So get the fuck over yourself and try to get this deal done, because a Democratic Congressperson actually created a bill, and the name of the bill is an anagram for McCarthy. It's like, my constituents can't afford something from tantrum something. So it spells out McCarthy Act. And so
these moderate Republicans in the House, is it there just not enough of them to combat what these extremists are doing? Because I was of the mindset that the extreme wing of the House, the Republican House, it weren't that many of them. So am I wrong in my numbers?
No, there aren't as many. Okay, so I think the numbers is 12 House Republicans who were seated in districts that Biden won.
You want to sum it up?
Yeah, well, I was about to say, CJ, as a fan of that particular organ, I would not give them that honor. But you've got, I think, more than 30 people in just the ignorant ass caucus of the Freedom Caucus or whatever, the lack of Freedom Caucus. So what I would say is that it is clear that McCarthy could pass something with Democratic support. If he put something together, he could pass it with Democratic support, but that would make him look weak, because there's been a longstanding rule, at least on the GOP side, that in order for something to be taken to the floor, you have to have enough support to pass it in your own
party, right?
But he already broke that rule.
But that could be the ultimate flex for McCarthy if he really thought about it. You know what I'm saying?
He could.
If he thought about it.
But what he's already done is violated that core principle, because he punted on the Biden impeachment inquiry by sending it to committee because he knew he didn't have the votes in his own
right. And it was an obvious deflection.
Right. The Biden district GOPers would not have voted for an impeachment inquiry because they know that would destroy them. So he is a dunce. He is a moron. He is feckless. He is incompetent. But he is not that delightful set of fleshy folds in which one may find such carnal pleasure.
His district out here, when I tell you they stand for him,
that's okay.
They do. I mean, they feel like he is doing the greatest job. They did a piece on them. I forgot what I was watching. And I was like, good Lord, are they red?
Go ahead.
No, I'm good. What happened to Tom? Oh, he's gone. Okay.
Yeah, he'll be back. He's all right. Okay. But you made a good point about the factions within the GOP party. So, you were asking like, well, how many moderates would it take to fight this? Even the moderates in the GOP party are concerned that a percentage of their constituency are diehard Trumpers, and none of them in any red community can afford to lose a vote, because this whole country is purple AF. And it balances, it goes either way every day. So the GOP is walking on pins and needles of, well, if I don't back this GOP thing, am I going to lose the 11 votes that I need to get reelected? So they're kind of lame ducking themselves, and they brought it on themselves overall.
Well, they absolutely did, because the biggest faction, the most powerful faction of the GOP right now is the Trump cult of personality. We agree, Irene.
Send me your address. I'm gonna send you something really, really nice.
Yeah, I wish we had I wish we had my Double Good popcorn fundraiser before the last show. I did make my quota.
Do you have that popcorn? Do you have like a fundraiser? That's some good ass popcorn.
Well, you didn't click on my link. I posted on it 3 times on the webpage.
Were we in cahoots then?
No, it's okay. We have one last story because we're at an hour and 22 minutes. And this story is about Trump's on-air admission. So Jermaine was asking about this. There were 2 major interviews this week. One with Kristen Welker on Meet the Press. It was a solo, a mano a mano with Trump, where she extracted some pretty interesting concessions from him. Because as we all know, one of the biggest things that the general intelligentsia was thinking was going to be the defense is, well, I was relying on the counsel of my lawyers,
right,
who were telling me this, that, and the third. And so Kristen, I mean, to her credit, a lot of people are giving her a lot of shade for the way she conducted the interview because she allowed him to kind of step over her. But I would point to the fact that she kind of used a tactic which played into his ego, which caused him to stumble into a whole viper's nest of bullshit. And basically she said, so what are you saying? Are you saying that the decision was yours, the decision to proceed with pressing on the recount and the false narrative about the yes, at the end of the day, it was me. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like,
I told you he was going to be able to keep his mouth shut and was going to condemn himself.
Lawyers telling you that there wasn't this fraud. Right. Well, I didn't believe them. There were so many lawyers, and all of the ones who were saying it were rhinos. I had other lawyers, the very best lawyers. They're so good, don't you agree? The best lawyers telling me that there was fraud. And so, but at the end of the day, it was my decision. I knew I won the election at 10 o'clock, frankly. At 10 o'clock on election night, I knew I won the election. And it's like, let's see, absentee ballots.
Yeah.
So that was a big concession.
So she's being critiqued on the way that she interviewed him. I didn't hear that. I didn't read that.
Oh no, a lot of people. There were people, especially on the the.
I feel like that's more of a gender thing because they did the same girl. I mean, although I don't like Kristen from CNN, but I feel like if it's a woman interviewing Trump, they're going to always find a way to make her appear a lot more docile, as if she's not strong. I feel like she pretty much went to.
No, you're
absolutely right.
You're absolutely right. But yeah. I was looking at it and I was like, the way she was kind of leaning in. And it was just like, so are you saying that you actually violated 91 different crimes? Is that what you're saying? Well, yes.
It seems like she just set up a trap for him and he just fell right in. But all of a sudden, the way she interviewed him was weak. Come on,
she was definitely Sharoning him. It was like,
I
hate
mean,
the way they spin stuff. Go ahead, Joy.
they spin it because they got nothing left to do. So it was one of those things where, you know, you've been beaten hands down and all you can say is, well, your mama. I mean, that's where they came to, right? And so since it was so masterfully done, it takes a masterful interviewer to make you think that you are tricking her.
Yeah.
To make you think that you are getting over her. Even some of the audience is like, oh, he's walking all over her. She's letting him fall into this trap.
She had that tiger pit with them spikes, and she was like, here, kitty, kitty, kitty.
But it's something that women do. My mom, that's how she would catch us in lies. She would just let us ramble. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's right.
It's something that women just know how to do. They say, okay, I'm just going to let you take the reins here because the truth is going to come out from you.
My mama did that to my daddy one time. Like this is before you had electronic locks on the car doors, and the passenger side lock was unlocked when she got in the car. And she said she came back in the house and she just said, Steve, she called my dad Steve. Steve, my friend said she saw you drop a woman off somewhere. That's all she said.
Well, what had happened was
she had not near piece of evidence or nothing. She just said, my friend said she saw you drop a woman off somewhere. And he immediately went into, that was a friend from work, and her car broke down, so I dropped her, blah, blah, and blah, 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 blah.
And forgetting everything he had said prior and just trying his best to clean it up.
That's, you know, that is about the most generic statement. That's like, my friend said she saw your shadow on the ground when the sun was out.
Right. You just start confessing.
Oh, well, see, there was no cloud cover, and what I had tried, I was putting on some sunscreen, and so maybe the sunscreen fell, and it made a puddle of my shadow.
And the tree that I was standing under didn't have a whole lot of leaves. So,
leaves, wasn't no leaves, and so it looked like antlers coming out of my head on the shadow. And so,
what was his second admission, Tom? Because I didn't hear about either admission.
So in Megyn Kelly had an interview, and very nasty woman, Megyn Kelly. Did you see it? She was nasty. Didn't you think she was nasty? She was going back. She was pressing him. And again, she's a journalist. Okay. Well, she may not be a journalist, but she plays one on TV. And she got him to make statements that weaken his position in the James, it's the Jack Smith case. So everything that he does, he thinks that he is testifying to America. But America is not the jury, and America certainly isn't the judge who is going to be ruling. And Jack Smith went in and said that he has now asked Chutkan to enforce the gag order.
The gag order, right.
Because he's calling Jack deranged. He's saying this judge is Judge Chutkan is this and da 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 da. And she said, nah, we're not going to do that. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not going to result in him being jailed or anything, but I'd just be happy if they break that iPhone.
So he's still trying to make this a public opinion issue. Is that what he thinks is going to win him?
That's how he operates.
Do you know what did you hear what he did? And really, it's 128. Really, the thing that he did this week, he told the House caucus to defund
the FBI.
No, not even the FBI. To defund the special counsel, to defund Jack Smith so that Jack Smith could no longer prosecute the federal cases against him, Mar-a-Lago and the Jan 6. He told them as a part of their shut the country down that they needed to defund Jack Smith in the budget that they passed.
Well, he's taking the big lap for getting the impeachment thing. I hear that he's was the one that was the architect behind impeaching Joe Biden as a result.
Well, I mean, there wasn't.
They always talk about that.
Yeah, you didn't need much of an architect. Marjorie Taylor Greene called for impeachment the day he was inaugurated. But let's be clear. He literally, what he did do was introduce Hunter Biden. Because he knew that Joe Biden was his greatest political threat. So he introduced Hunter Biden. That's what his first impeachment was about, trying to extract from Ukraine dirt about Hunter Biden. So you talk about weaponizing the government, weaponizing the DOJ, weaponizing all these things. You were first, bro.
Yeah.
You did that shit first against Joe Biden, your only potential threat, who ended up beating you. And now you're trying to say, they're weaponizing the DOJ. Bro, you did the same shit.
All the judges that are upholding these charges against you are judges you appointed, son.
Yeah.
Well, not all of them, but yeah.
Well, a good number of them.
Yeah, the people who defeated you in the lie, the big lie, a lot of them judges were your judges.
Mm-hmm.
And don't count on them 3 you got into the Supreme Court, because they've already
they're acting like they don't know you, son.
No, that's what they're doing.
New phone, who this? New judge, who this?
Right.
So, all right. I don't know if we have anything left this week. I will say I want to offer congratulations to my son. He has earned his first time job. It's a full-time job with benefits. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to advertise the company, but it is his first job, and we are going to celebrate. We are going to have some Korean barbecue. And so I'm very proud of him. And my other son made honor roll.
Oh,
nice.
So that it's kind of a double thing. Mm. And I love my mom. I love you, Mom. Thank you.
Is she back at home?
His mom is fired.
Oh no, she's
here.
She's still here. Still
she's gonna take care of her baby.
Oh
yeah.
My God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she doesn't know that my dad literally said, "Son, when can your mama come home?" But
one thing I do want to close on, and I don't have the video, and I don't feel like pulling it up either because it was like several slides on Instagram. But the Embracing Black Culture did a collection of Instagram posts about Offset hanging out doing a 24-hour live with his boys on Instagram, 24 hours. So it ended up being a sleepover.
Yeah.
Right. And so one of the banners that we didn't put up was this one, Black men need therapy.
Oh, here we go.
Now we talked about all of the different, we talked about some toxic masculinity and stuff earlier, and Black men in general, but Black men in particular, because just like intersectionality is a thing, when it comes to toxic masculinity, it is amplified in the Black community because of the other forms of oppression that Black men have. Y'all all need therapy. Y'all too, looking at all y'all. I remember when I came out of watching Creed, I posted that on my Facebook. Oh, wow, I just saw Creed, Black men, y'all need therapy. Now, get back to Offset. If you go to Embracing Black Culture on Instagram, watch that story, but watch their post, flip through all of it, because these grown men have a sleepover and they do a 24-hour live. So you are a fly on the wall the entire time, and they have so much fun. They're doing a little dance contest. Offset them brought a sleeping bag over there. They're chilling. They doing stuff like playing jokes with each other, throwing water on each other at 2:00 in the morning, and just seeing, a trap rapper just have fun. Yeah. And just kick it with his boys and have a ball. And then he posted later, he was like, that was the most fun I had in a long time. I'm really glad I got a chance to do that. Like, that Black boy joy was real. And we need more of that. And one of the ways that we can start to eliminate this toxic masculinity we have in our community is to allow Black men, Black boys and Black men to just be happy, to have fun, to do something. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky right now because I'm working with another company. And one of the things that we did today was just talk about, tell us some things that is easy to see about you. I'm Black, I'm a woman, I'm thick, whatever. And then tell us some things that people don't know about you. I like video games, et cetera, et cetera. And this one Black man, he was like, yeah, I worry about being a good father and something else. And, I've been married to him for years. He goes, and I get a pedicure every month. And it was like silence. He goes, and it just feels good. I let them do whatever they be doing down there, but it's like it releases my stress. Let's have a good time. And this is a construction site.
But I feel like that's a behavior we're naturally born into. I mean, because even my younger brother, I'm the only gay one. There's like 4 of us. We were all pretty much joyful little boys, just happy. Mm-hmm. But sometimes our expressing it was always met with a little bit of just like, no, that's not what boys do. That's not how boys respond to this. So I feel like it's one of those things that's beaten out of us over time.
Yes. You mentioned Todrick Hall earlier on his Straight Outta Oz album. He has a song where he talks about growing up. And he said, I remember growing up, little boys don't cry. Little boys aren't shy. little boys don't wear pink. Like the whole song is him talking about how he was told he couldn't do all the things that brought him happiness when he was young because little boys don't do it. They don't play with Barbie dolls, all that kind of stuff. And you're absolutely right. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I did it several times.
But those are extreme things. I'm just talking about, I remember times when I was just wanting to be in the room with my girl cousins because their conversation was just a lot more lively than it was going on in the other room. And I was pulled out of those rooms. So I feel like that structure, I mean, we're just naturally born to just be happy people, but I feel like it's our elders who just beat it out of us over time.
Absolutely.
And because I was so pig-headed, even as a child, I was going to be happy. You know what I'm saying? I was going to be expressive.
You better claim that happiness, Jermaine.
I was, and it irritated the hell, even out of my mom at times, because she just didn't know what to do with me, because she didn't know where it came from.
Right.
But now it makes a lot of sense. But I just feel like more so, it's just that cyclical behavior that nobody wants to remedy. Because it's just not as expected. I mean, societal norms, and perhaps it's out of survival because they know that once we get off from under their house, they're going to want us to be as strong and fortified as possible to survive in this world. So it's a lot of dynamics that go into the way, they raise Black young men. But like I said, I was just resilient. I was going to be the kid who was just who Jermaine was.
I heard that.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking a lot of how Black parents, Black grandparents, Black caregivers beat things out of young Black boys. I would just like to end the show by saying that clearly Lauren Hobart had no problem beating things out of her date, and that brought him joy probably. So with that, as Jermaine slips past his chair, I would like to say, if I may, if we are done, because I would like to mention the Kirk Franklin documentary. We did have somebody who commented on it, and Joy put it up on screen. You talk about a man whose family dynamics have been being played out over the last couple years, and now to see this documentary kind of like as really putting the crown on the rest of that whole thing is really stunning. And I think it is, I mean, perhaps because Kirk Franklin is in a performance kind of space, an artistic kind of space, and in a space that deals with religion, and there's a lot more Black male emotion in religious spaces than there are in other spaces. And maybe that is, what helped him tip into the decision to bare his soul in the way that that you see in this documentary. But it's happening at a time where it is so critical. And the way it is being received, just like the folks who are commenting now about how hard it hit them. And, people are like, if you watch that Kirk Franklin documentary, be ready to get the tissues and all of that. I think you were talking about cyclicism, Jermaine, and how we can break cycles. To me, something as naked and honest as that is perhaps something that can, if it's not going to transform the world forever, but if it tips things in a different direction for a time, then maybe there's an opportunity for something to stick. And so, we have a lot of circumstances that don't give us much hope. That was something
showed the ugly.
And that's something that's important. I mean, it's important, and it's raw, and it's real, and we could use some realness and asking some tough questions of ourselves about what it is.
I also want to take a stance on something around gender expression and fluidity and sexual expression and fluidity, because the younger generations in our community, as well as society as a whole, are being more expressive, more open, refusing to make a binary decision like, I'm gonna just be who I'm at. And I follow several of them on TikTok, and they're living their best life, they're happy. And I think another way for us to move, it may be overshooting a little bit. I mean, I can't make that call, but I like the way I'm seeing some of the younger men say, I'm not buying into this stereotypical hyper masculine bullshit. I want to be a cool dude who happens to paint my nails black and like comic books. Winrow the Square is one of the guys I follow on TikTok, and he's adorable. And this other girl said, The reason I started following him is because this other TikToker was like, Windrow to Square, that's the dude I want to make the little spoon. And he took that video and he's like, he showed her saying it. He goes, how'd you know? How'd you know that I love being a little spoon? And so just this idea of I don't always have to be the dominant character. He's still very much a man. Yeah. But he's a man who likes to paint his nails and doesn't mind being the little spoon and things like that, getting away from the idea of always having to be dominant, always having to be hypersexual, always having to be aggressive. You can just, because those things also require a level of stress and anger to go along with them. You can release that and just be happy. It doesn't make you better or worse or anything. It just makes you less stressed out and less likely to pop. And so I do think that the younger generations, desire to express themselves in different ways is helping us move out of it. If we, as boomers and Xers and stuff, can get out of their goddamn way and let them be themselves.
But as an Xer, in my defense, it does pose just a bit of a quandary as to like, how do you step to them? Because, if you see, I'm evolved. I am with it. It took me a minute to figure out what non-binary and all that shit meant, because I was like, wait a minute, got some years on me, but give me a second, but I'm with you. But sometimes just on the surface, I'm like, I don't know how to respond to this. Help me. Don't judge me while you're helping me. But they meet that energy as though I'm judging them, because I'm just asking, where do I go? How do we cohabitate in this 2.0 gay world that I'm still a part of, but I need some education.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what cis meant for a minute. I was like, what the fuck is cis? Help me out. Yeah. I'm serious. Well, and I know you probably have issues with it, Tom, because I'm gay and I still have a lot of questions.
Well, it just so happens that I work with an advocacy organization that deals with Lgbt Black issues. Yeah. And so I'm a lot more versed in the language. And so
well,
when I heard cis for the first time, I didn't know what it was, but it took me about 2 seconds to understand what it is. But I will just say this, just the littlest, barest thing about stepping away from toxic masculinity. If you think a pedicure is a feminine thing, you need to open your goddamn eyes, because it feels great. And the Bible talks about washing of feet, and it's a wonderful experience. You soak your feet, and I know you ain't been clipping them nails. I know they look like claws, and so you got
scratching up your wood floors,
getting the cuticle out, and then you pay the additional $15, and they put a salt scrub and then wrap your shit in like
that is living.
That shit is bomb.
Oh my God.
You just sit back and you don't have to do anything. They got the shiatsu massager, they got heat in the back, and you can just lay back and your legs are getting rubbed and your feet are being tended to, and you can wear sandals when you walk out that mug. Because I can tell you right now, because my operation was on my foot, my mother has been hazing me every day. Get a podiatrist referral. You got to get a pedicure. I can't look at your nails no more. It's been a month and a half at least, and
you'll be just out there like,
can you chop wood?
Talent.
You remember Dragon Slayer? My shit looks like Vermithrax right now. So that was a deep cut. I know my nerds, my black nerd, my blurs probably caught the Vermithrax. But if you know Vermithrax, I rock with you. So I'm just saying.
And I'm gonna say, Jermaine, so going back to the whole gay 2.0, which is funny. I feel you on that, like not understanding the lingo and not knowing all these terms and everything, and being confused about it. And I see a lot of, to your point, a lot of the younger people get mad that you don't already know all of this. Yeah. And I counsel them, like, give people a break, give them a chance to learn, give them some grace to catch up with all of this, the same way we do anything. But I also, I tell people, you can go learn the same way. If somebody asks me, well, what's it like, can you tell me about the African-American experience? And my answer is going to be like, Google is a thing. Google is a thing for all of us. But that's because, people get tired of having to explain themselves. And there's also a level of chip on their shoulder that they feel because they get ridiculed and people accuse them of being weak and soft.
Yeah, they're very combative.
They're very combative. And that's the youth of being combative. You want to try me, etc. But
I've got 2 teenagers.
Yeah.
But they throw it on you in the middle of conversation. Hell, you don't even have time to Google. It's like, wait a minute, you just threw this on me and you're just talking. I'm not going to Google. I'm just going to ask you for the sake
of asking you because you're sitting there talking to me using these terms, so clearly you know what they mean.
Yeah.
And so I feel you on people not having any sort of patience. And I condemn them for that. You know, but
I think you made a very interesting point, Joy, about constantly having to define it. You walking down the street in New York and you got 25 conversations, you just trying to get to Starbucks. It's a lot to put on a t-shirt. You know, the fine print on a button to answer your questions would be like this. It's a big conversation. And so for me, it comes back to a core element of respect. It's like somebody was talking about, you know, the issue of pronouns or whatever. And somebody said, Sean Combs, who was Puffy and Puff Daddy and P. Diddy, and every time he changed his shit, people were they just rocked with it.
They did.
Right.
And so
Prince had us calling him a symbol.
Exactly. I just don't understand. How about this? How about you introduce yourself to me and that's how I refer to you? How about that? How about I give you the respect as a human being to you tell me if we're introducing for the first time, and if you want to put pronouns on it to give me an additional guidepost so that I have a better understanding of either what your gender identity or whatever is, I'm completely fine with that. There was a colleague that I had never met, and because they have a traditionally masculine name, I would slip, and sometimes I would say he as opposed to they. And I was on a phone call one time, and it wasn't even the person who was correcting me. It was somebody else on the call. And every time I use the incorrect pronoun, he would just quietly say, no, he would just say they. And I was like, oh. And it made me feel like shit because I consider myself like enlightened. Like, I'm not that dude. I'm not testing you. It's just, I was so used to seeing that masculine presenting name. And so I finally saw the pronouns in the footer of his email signature, and I was like, fuck, but I've never done it again.
Yeah. And see, now that's different. So there's two things that happen right there. There's the honest mistake, because I was in a meeting on Tuesday and there was a non-binary person there, and which physically to me presented as male. And so I said he a couple times, and I said he a couple times, and everybody in the room knew that I knew better. So they just kind of let it slide. And I caught myself, I was he. And because the crew was cool, I was like, they, I'm sorry. And then I just kept moving on. And I tried to say they for the rest of the day. But then there are people who are, you know, his mama called him Clay, I'm gonna call him Clay. And they're like, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm like, but they ask you to do that, and it's not that hard.
It's so hard.
And we learn new last names for women every day. You used to be Johnson, now you're Spartacus or whatever, and we got no problem changing that last name.
I am Spartacus.
Say my name is no longer Harold, I'm now Sharon, and they're like, "Ugh, I can't do that." Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
You just don't want to. Yeah.
If Melania can take the last name Trump, you can do anything.
You want to be Jermaine Stewart?
I'll be Jermaine Stewart, Tom.
Yeah.
I apologize, Jermaine.
No, I will be Jermaine Stewart.
Take that check. Take that Jermaine Stewart royalty money.
Okay, that was one song.
Send me a box of cherry wine
royalty
for my birthday in 2 months. That's all I need.
Cherry wine.
I mean, you need a long hot comb press.
Oh, I do.
Oh, that wig.
The Nehru jacket.
Yeah, you could. I mean, you got the same body type. You could definitely rock Jermaine Stewart for Halloween for real. Not CJ Spartacus. You pulled that one out the trenches on that one. Okay, my family is here to take me to eat some Korean barbecue.
Yay!
And so I would like to say thank you again for joining us for a show. We love you for sticking with us. We all agree that Jermaine is a fantastic addition to the show. And with that, I'm going to say I am Tom Cunningham.
I am Joyce Stevens.
I am Jermaine Taylor.
And this is Steel Sharpens Steel. See you next week, everybody.